Hey, it's Ann from Ann Moyer Singing and from the Melody Project, and I wanted to talk a little bit about learning how to listen. Now, new students will likely believe that most of what they have to learn about singing is breath control and throat stuff. Ear training is not what students think about when they decide to pick up singing. But ear training is one of the most crucial skills a student needs in order to be a good singer. The first step a student usually struggles with is pitch matching what they hear. This poses some students a lot of trouble initially, comparing the externally generated sound versus the internally generated sound they respond with. They don't sound the same to them, and so they struggle to know, am I on pitch? And the reasons for that are several, but they can be distilled down to the fact that we have our microphone, our ears, mounted in our speaker cabinet, our skull. And we hear sympathetic vibrations and resonances that nobody else can hear. Players of the acoustic guitar will tell you that the players hear detail from the instrument that the audience does not. And when we hear our voice in a recording, we react negatively. Everyone I've ever spoken to about this has experienced the same thing. What we hear on that recording isn't the sound that we hear when we speak. So the student has to relearn these associations of what they feel and what they hear internally when making proper pitch sounds to the outside listener. And after they can make the right pitches, then getting vowels consistent is an issue because there are lots of ways of making a particular vowel and pitch combination. And then they'll end up picking close but not quite sounds each time they sing until they understand how to use the same set of movements each time they do it. So perceptions of what sounds good for certain vowels needs to change too. Things that sound big may actually be hollow sounding. O's and oo's are really famous for this. And what you think is bright may actually be nasal. The student has to unlearn these old reference points, and they've got nothing to do with what the audience hears. So how do you fix that? Well, you need to train your ear to hear the defects your teacher is pointing out to you. Your teacher hears how you're using the parts of your body in the same way that a mechanic listens to a car. So pay attention to the corrective steps that they suggest. Record your practice sessions and then play it back. Don't just shake your head and say you don't like it. Don't auto-delete it. Listen to it. Be picky. Make notes of why you didn't like it. You have taste. Use it. Then go back. Adjust one thing. Try singing it again. Listen and critique again. And repeat this basically forever, for the rest of your musical career, because this is how you get better. Another thing a student can do is rig up their microphone so that they hear themselves live while they practice, not just the music that they're singing along to, them and the music. And this is good because it lets you hear what the microphone hears. You can tweak what you're doing live, correlating the sensation of the sensation to the sound you're being fed. Once you have it sounding the way you think you want, take the headphones off, turn the recording back on. Try it again, trusting the sensations and those new reference points and not your ear. Because if and when you perform live, you'll likely be in a situation where you can't hear yourself well. You'll have to rely on muscle memory and good habits, and you have to trust the technique and not your ear. This is an essential skill to develop. Another problem that students will have is that they want to sound like a band that they like or a singer that they like. They don't have an understanding of how much studio magic takes place, even in live shows. It's near impossible to find a commercially available album that doesn't have some kind of vocal processing applied to it. There are examples of things like pitch correction being used on live shows like The Voice and America's Got Talent. There's this YouTube Wings of Pegasus where they go off on this on the regular to see some great examples. But the student still wants to sound like that artist. They want the same presentation of the voice. They wanted breathy, creaky, all the personal affectations of the original singer. One of the best examples I have for this is for people who want to sing metal. The screamy, anguished sounds that they hear in these songs, they're not loud. They're amplified considerably by the mixing. They have many live effects to them as well, depending upon the band. How you work with this is to look for raw audio of a singer where you can find it. As a teacher, try and demonstrate what's possible when you can get right up on a dynamic microphone as opposed to keeping a polite distance from a condenser mic. Proximity effects are a thing. Have them pay attention to where artists hold mics during different techniques. Mic placement and distance management is something that need to be learned as well. A lot of times with a little detective work, you can find out that the equipment that a band uses to perform live. A good place to start is try to track down the microphones that they use. And then from there, you'll find breadcrumbs that lead off to other gear. You may or may not be surprised to find how many effects processors are used in live performance kit. I'm not advocating that you or the student becomes an equipment expert, but you should use this information to help keep the goals realistic. So it's important to not let the student get lost in the weeds of trying to sound like anyone except themselves. The first several years of training should be devoted to hacking away all the artificial restrictions we have on our voice out of the assemblage of bad habits we've developed over the course of our life. We were taught how to speak, and how we use our machine is geared towards that. Once the machine is adjusted for continuous sound, then you can apply techniques to sound like just about any genre you want, but you need that foundation first. Thanks again for joining me. I'll see you hopefully next week. It's been a rough couple of weeks here, but peace and hang in there.